Hey guys, it's Tuller back at you with another video here. Today we're going to be doing 6.2 inverse equations. Back in 6.1 we talked about what inverses were. We looked at functions and flipped their inputs and outputs to look at what inputs and outputs we'd get off the inverse. Today we're going to be looking at functions and writing their inverses, okay? It's not too bad. Now, let's start with a little magic trick for you. Pick any number, add 6, multiply by 2, subtract 12, and then divide by 2. You might need to pause the video if you want to do this little activity here. You'll get the number you started with. Now here, it says people are often mystified by such tricks. But those of us who have studied inverse operations and inverse functions can easily figure out how they work and even create our own number trick. So let's get started by figuring out how inverse functions work together, okay? So we're going to write a trick here. We're going to write this function in words, and then we're going to go backwards to write its inverse, okay? So how would you say this in words? We have a 3 times x, okay? So now to write that inverse, we're going to go backwards and say x divided by 3, okay? We went this way and we used opposite operations. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of subtraction is addition. I think you understand those. Okay, so now let's write this as an equation. X divided by 3 is our inverse equation. All right, let's do another. How would you say this in words? I would say x squared. Okay, we got to go backwards and write this as an opposite operation. What is the opposite operation of squaring something? Okay, that'll be square root. So this inverse would be square root of x. Okay, you with me? Okay, flip the page. We've got x times 2, subtract 5. Subtract 5, okay? Backwards, we'll have plus 5 divide by 2. So we're going to have x plus 5 divided by 2. Okay, let's get a little bit more complicated with multiple operations. This one we'd say x plus 5 divide 3. Okay, let's say this backwards. We're going to say x minus, nope, I screwed up. X multiply by 3, then subtract 5. So we're going to say an x being multiplied by a 3 minus 5. That right there would be our inverse. Okay, let's do one more this way. We say this as x minus 3 squared. Okay, backwards and opposite operations. We're going to say square root of x plus 3. Okay, and it's been that way since 2011 or even before probably. But we'll move on. Okay, now there's another way to do this. instead of writing out each word. Let's go down and look at this process algebraically, okay? This is how people have always solved inverses. And this is maybe what I think would be a more convenient way to do things, but whatever way works better for you, do it that way, okay? So another way to find an inverse is change f of x to y, then switch x and y. Now we're going to solve for y, meaning get y all alone, and then change the y to the inverse function of x. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to change this f of x to y. I'm going to change that n to x plus 1 to the third minus 2. Okay, now the next step would be to flip x and y. Okay, now we need to get y all by itself. Let's get y all by itself. We're going to first add 2. We'll get x plus 2 equals y plus 1 to the third. Okay, what is the opposite operation of putting something to the third power? It's taking the cubed root. Okay, so now we're going to have the cubed root of x plus 2 equals y plus 1. Now we have one more step to get y by itself. We're going to subtract 1. So now we have y equals the cubed root of x plus 2 minus 1. Now to finish this off, we're going to change y back to now the inverse function minus 1. Okay. All right. Now you could practice these two here, but these are a little bit more complicated. I want to go back up to these other two examples, 6 and 7. Okay. Let's solve these in my other method. Okay. So we're not doing that. We're going to write y equals 4 minus square root x, and now switch x and y. Okay. Now our job is to get y all by itself. The first thing I'm going to do is add 4. I now have x plus 4 equals negative square root of y. Okay? We need to divide by a negative 1. And we'll get x plus 4 over negative 1 equals square root y. And how do you get rid of a square root? We're going to square it. So this equals y x plus 4 over negative 1 squared. And we'll replace y with f of x to make this x plus 4 over negative 1 squared. Okay. All right, you have a couple more example problems to practice if you'd like. Got this one and these two down here. Feel free to solve them either way you'd like, whether it be writing your equation out in words, then inversing the words and writing your equation, or switching x and y and solving for y. As always, if you like the content, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.